Hi there, villagers. I'm Kelly,
And I'm Jolene, and this is the Success Through Community podcast,
where we believe that solopreneur success really does take a village.
I see it really as the lifeline.
It's been essential in getting my business to where it is today.
We're talking with women just like you who know that the secret to their success is their community.
Have you found your village yet?
Hey, villagers, I hope you liked listening to the very first season of the Success the Community podcast and our community conversations. We had a total blast talking to many amazing women that are out there breaking the glass ceiling, changing the world, and building very successful businesses and growing wonderful and I don't know, what word am I looking for? I don't want to say productive, but important communities.
Impactful.
Impactful. And I'm sure they're productive too. Don't get me wrong. But yes, impactful communities, yes. A group of amazing women.
Yeah, we're so excited though, because we're currently working on our next season. So we've been giving a lot of thought to how we want this podcast to kind of work. You know, we want it to be something that's unique and interesting, but not even just interesting and entertaining. We want it to be educational for our listeners, but also for us, right? You know, we both, and this is one of the things we bonded over early on in our biz bestie-ness, whatever you want to call that, is that, you know, we both have this very learner mindset, right? Where we always are learning, and we're always reading, and we're always listening to a podcast or watching videos or whatever it is to make sure that we're consistently staying fresh and, you know, thinking about our businesses in a really proactive and sometimes even critical way, right? In order to make sure that we're really having the business that we want to have.
Yes. And that's so true, because I love how we connected on so many levels when it comes to the point that we're lifelong learners, that we're always trying to expand our knowledge, whether it's on business or even personal growth. And how many books have we read? Like, it is crazy to think that we have come together over such, I don't know, I don't want to say weird, but you know me, I'm not as articulate as you are. So over such odd topics at times.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's funny that, like, and I've done this myself too, but you know, you just right now, you kind of qualified personal and business. And I think, you know, we talk about all the time how, like, it's really all the same, right?
Yeah.
I mean, how we're developing ourselves personally has an absolute impact on how our business develops. And I think we can learn from such unexpected places.
Absolutely. And so when we are doing that and we're surrounding ourselves, our community changes, and we're surrounding ourselves with that kind of community that helps us grow and helps us learn.
So something that we talked about when we were trying to figure out, like, exactly how to structure this next season, because something that was really important to both of us is that this doesn't just turn into, you know, like a random gab fest of two chicks and why does anybody care, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, we could do that all day and all night, but you know, that's not, what is that doing for anybody, especially us, right? So we really wanted to have something that helps us bring some structure, but allows us to stay, you know, authentic and organic and not feel like everything is scripted all the time, which, if you're paying attention, depending on how I edited this, it's definitely not scripted. But, you know, when we thought about it, we thought, you know, okay, I like to read a lot. You like to read a lot. One of the things that I have been doing this year in particular is I wanted to really create a new habit for myself of reading more, like not just articles and blog posts and stuff, but like actual books, right? And so I made a goal for myself, and, you know, I've been splitting my energy between like fun books so that I can love reading again, and then the books that are business development, personal development, you know, spiritual development, even like just things that really make me think and really grow in my life. And, you know, we were talking about how, like, there are just so many books on whether it's your wish list or your bookshelf, that are just there, but we just don't have time to get to. You know what I mean? There's just so many. And, we had this kind of crazy idea. So I don't know if this is dating us or not, but both of us remember the concept of book exchange when we were young, right? Where it was like, and honestly, I don't even remember the specifics of how book exchange worked. I just remember it being a thing.
Yeah, it was that community of friends kind of having our own personal libraries, right? So I read this book. I read, Hardy Boys. And then my girlfriend wanted to read, she read Harriet the Spy. So we exchanged books. That's all it was. It was a matter of exchanging books so that we always didn't have to buy new ones. It was a matter of giving honest reviews on the current books we're reading and whether or not we're going to suggest them and whether or not who couldn't relate to the Babysitters Club when we were 14? Again, dating myself.
100%, but I read the same books. So
that's why we're friends.
Exactly.
But it's one of those things where, honestly, I never would have gotten into, say, James and the Giant Peach had one of my girlfriends not sent it to me in exchange for one of my books. So
yeah,
it's one of those things where we want to do something very similar with the podcast because we do not want the podcast to become stagnant. We do not want it to be like every other business podcast out there where you have a host or hostesses just sitting there talking and telling you how to do things. We want this to be, there's that word again, impactful for us as well as you guys, our listeners, because nobody has that kind of time. My goal for books this year was to read 15 minutes a day. And that sounds like nothing. So, 15 minutes doesn't sound like much, but to be able to sit down and actually focus on a book for 15 minutes for me and my schedule is huge. So I know I'm not going to get through as many books as I did, say, 2 years ago. And I think that, I have a long list of books I want to read. And I know you have a long list of books that you want to read. And a lot of our listeners have a long list. And the thing is we're not going to get to all of them. And some of them are going to become dated in no time. The way business changes and online world is changing and post-COVID and all of that. So for us to be able to just kind of go our own path, read and focus on what is going to be good for us, and then actually having that conversation over, I'm currently reading this book and I'm learning this and I'm implementing that and this is how it's working, and having a conversation about it is not only going to introduce each other and our listeners to new books, but it's also going to show us the wide vast of importance of maybe the whole book isn't what someone needs to read. Maybe it's just this one chapter that's very, important and impactful for them right now.
Yeah.
And I think we can touch on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And, and so it's like a book exchange, but instead it's like a community exchange of knowledge so that we will have felt like we have read twice as many books because we've learned from books we never even got a chance to finish or even start reading, right? Just from something the other person said. Exactly. And I think too, like, as someone who, not just as a lifelong learner, but also as a lifelong teacher, you learn so much more from something that you've read when you teach it to someone else.
Yes, 100%.
And even those won't be teaching because it's not our knowledge to teach, right? It's just to share. But simply by explaining it and, getting that conversation going, we're really reinforcing those things that already caught our attention in the first place. Exactly. And I think I'm super excited about it. Like, as soon as we came up with this idea, I thought, dude, I want to start reading the next book right now because I just think it sounds really fun and exciting to me. And I hope our listeners feel the same.
Yeah, absolutely. Once we came up with it, that's where all of my slap happy energy came from.
Exactly.
That's one of those things and I think what also I think is going to be great is everything is up for interpretation. So yes, we learn more when we are teaching what we are reading. We're going to be able to definitely be able to use that knowledge for ourselves that much more. But I love that you and I might be able to read the same book and look at it two completely different ways.
Yeah.
And be able to implement the lessons in the book in two completely different ways that are going to find ways for us to grow, both again in business and personal. So what we're doing this season is we are going to be reading like crazy, not to you guys, not to our listeners, but I love this because I get to read now, because now I have a reason to actually lock myself into my bedroom and be like, leave me alone, guys. I'm reading.
It's for the podcast.
Yeah. It's for our listeners, honey. Back off. Right?
No, exactly. So that's what we're working on. That is going to be our next season, and you should definitely stay tuned, because we will be keeping you updated on when you can start hearing those episodes in the coming weeks. So if you aren't already subscribed, highly recommend you subscribe now, because you don't want to miss when our first episode is released.
Absolutely. And if you liked what you heard in season 1, be sure to leave us a great review and a great rating. It's very helpful for us and to help us grow the community and let everybody out there find their success in community.
Absolutely. And I do have to say, if you're liking what you're hearing right now, you may or may not know that we actually do also have a Patreon. Now, the Patreon is awesome in a bunch of different ways. If you don't know what Patreon is, what are you, under a rock? I don't know. No, but seriously, Patreon is a way that you can connect with our community even deeper. It's an opportunity for you to sponsor us in a way so that we can keep making more and more and more seasons for you. But it's not one-sided at all. Not only do you get all the episodes ad-free, but we also do special episodes that are only in there for our patrons. So we have like coaching sessions that are things that were not otherwise public, but are public for you if you're a patron. As well as Jolene and I both have our Coaches Corner, where we'll just kind of talk to you about different things from our perspective in business, and teaching you some things that we have more of our expertise in. So something to look into. You can find it in the show notes if you want to check it out and see what's available there.
Absolutely. And I also want to point out that we do have our own little community on Facebook, the It Takes a Village community. And you will put the link in the show notes, but you can always find both Kelly and I in there on a regular basis, which is probably not as smart as we think it is, because social media time suck, we're always in there, and we're reachable that way as well. And if there's a book you want us to read or talk about, let us know there, or in the show notes, let us know and leave us a comment. If there's a book you want to join us on the podcast on an episode and have a conversation with us that you think is amazing, and that you think that, business women and women out there need to read or should read because it's so impactful and made such a great impression on your life, reach out. We want to hear from you. We want to be a part of this. This is for all of us, not just Kelly and I.
Yes, be an active member of the community. Absolutely.
Because what do you get from community? You get success through community.
Yes, you do.
You know how that works? Yes. Full circle.
So make sure, again, if you are not subscribed, please subscribe, like this episode, like the podcast, wherever it is that you're listening, and make sure to tell your community about this community.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you for season 2.
Thanks so much for joining us this week on the Success Through Community podcast,
where our goal is to support female solopreneurs through community.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you did, make sure you check out the show notes for links, transcripts, and so much more.
And be sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you're listening to the podcast.
Ooh, and don't forget to mention us to your community.
And if you can't wait for the next episode, be sure to join us on Patreon,
where our community is made possible by listeners like you. So thank you so much for your support.
Until next time.